Imagine this. You've been saving your whole life, you finally retire, and on day one, someone hands you a rulebook. Spend no more than 4% a year. Never touch a principal. Cut back, live lean, make it last. So you follow the rules. You pinch pennies, you skip the trip to Italy, and then, at 87 years old, you die with $600,000 still sitting in the bank. Money you never let yourself enjoy. That is not financial wisdom. That is a tragedy. And it happens every single day. In the next 9 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 5 biggest spending lies that retirees believe. Lies that were invented with good intentions but are quietly robbing millions of people of the retirement they actually earned. Here's what we're covering. The real math behind the so-called safe withdrawal rate. Why living on interest alone may be the worst strategy in your toolbox. The truth about what actually runs out in retirement, and what a truly healthy spending plan actually looks like, because it's probably not what you think. Let's get into it. Step 1. Understanding where these rules came from. Before we expose the lies, we need to understand why they exist, because they weren't invented to hurt you, they were invented to protect you. The problem is the world changed and the rules didn't. Most of the conventional wisdom about retirement spending was built on one very specific fear: running out of money before you die. That fear is real and it's valid, but in trying to solve it, financial culture overcorrected into something just as dangerous: chronic underspending, anxiety around every dollar, and a retirement that looks nothing like the one you planned. So let's name these lies one by one. The 5 retirement spending lies. Lie number 1. The 4% rule is a safe withdrawal rate. You've heard this one. It goes like this. Take 4% of your portfolio in year 1, adjust for inflation each year after, and your money should last 30 years. Sounds reasonable. Here's what most people don't know. The 4% rule was developed in 1994 by financial planner William Bengen. It was based on historical U.S. stock and bond data going back to 1926. And even Bengen himself later said he would revise it upward to around 4.5% or even 5% given the data he's seen since. More importantly, the 4% rule was a floor, not a ceiling. It was designed to say, at minimum, you can probably spend this much without running out. It was never meant to say, this is all you should ever spend. For many retirees, especially with pensions, Social Security, or shorter time horizons, spending 5, 6, or even 7% in early retirement is perfectly defensible. The math just depends on your specific situation. The lie isn't the number. The lie is treating it like a commandment. Lie number 2. You should live off the interest and never touch the principal. This one sounds so safe, so responsible. Don't kill the golden goose. Just live off the eggs. But here's the problem. With a $1 million portfolio in a balanced 60-40 fund, you might reasonably expect somewhere in the range of 3 to 4% in dividends and interest annually. That's $30,000 to $40,000 a year before taxes. For most retirees, that's not enough to live on comfortably. So you squeeze your lifestyle into that box, skipping the grandkids' college tuition help, skipping the home renovation, skipping the travel. Or you feel like you're cheating every time you sell a share of stock. Here's the truth. Your portfolio is not a monument. It is a tool. You are allowed to spend it down strategically over your lifetime. That's what it's for. Now, of course, spending it all in year 3 is a disaster. But a thoughtfully declining portfolio that sustains your lifestyle into your late 80s or 90s, that's not failure. That's the plan working exactly as it should. Lie number 3. Your spending will stay flat in retirement. Just adjust for inflation. This is one of the most technically seductive lies because it sounds so logical. You take your current expenses, you apply an inflation adjustment each year, and you project a nice smooth line into the future. Real retirement spending doesn't work like that. Research, including widely cited work from the Society of Actuaries, has consistently shown that retirees tend to spend in what's called a smile pattern. Spending starts relatively high in early retirement, the go-go years, when you're traveling, active, and finally doing all the things you put off. Then it drops in your mid-70s as activity slows. Then it can spike again in your late 80s due to healthcare and long-term care costs. If you model flat spending, you'll underspend in your 60s, the years when you are most healthy and capable of enjoying money, to save for costs that may or may not materialize. That's a real loss. You can't get those years back. A smarter plan front-loads discretionary spending in the early years and builds in a healthcare reserve for later. Not a flat line, a smile. Lie number 4. Running out of money is the only risk that matters. Ask almost any retiree what they fear most. They'll say it. I'm afraid of running out of money. Understandable, but here's something that doesn't get said nearly enough. Chronic underspending is also a risk, a quiet one, an invisible one, but a real one. Studies consistently show that a large percentage of retirees, some estimates put it at over half, die with more money than they had at retirement. They spent conservatively their entire lives, grew more conservative over time, and left behind substantial assets that could have funded years of joy, experiences, and generosity. Some people genuinely want to leave a large legacy. That's a valid goal, and it should be planned for intentionally. But for many retirees, that outcome wasn't a choice. It was anxiety wearing the mask of prudence. A retirement plan should have 2 guardrails, a floor so you don't run out, and a ceiling so you don't underspend. Most plans only build the floor. Lie number 5. If you retire early, you need to be extra frugal to make it work. Early retirees often get hit with a double dose of the scarcity mindset. You retired at 58, you've got 35 years to fund. You need to be really careful. And yes, a longer time horizon does require more careful planning, but more careful doesn't mean spend as little as humanly possible. What it actually means is be strategic, use flexible withdrawal strategies, keep a cash buffer, sequence withdrawals across your tax buckets smartly, have a contingency plan if markets drop early in retirement, what planners call sequence of returns risk. So here's the irony. The retirees who obsess over underspending often end up with the same anxiety they had when they were working, just in reverse. They traded work stress for money stress. That's not freedom. That's just a different cage. Step 3. What a healthy spending plan actually looks like. So if the lies are wrong, what's right? Here's a simple framework. First, separate your spending into 3 categories: essential, lifestyle, and legacy. Essentials are covered by your guaranteed income sources, Social Security, pension, annuity. Lifestyle spending comes from your portfolio, strategically. Legacy goals get whatever's left or a dedicated portion set aside from the start. Second, design for the smile. Plan higher spending in your 60s and early 70s. Expect a natural slowdown in the mid-70s. Build a healthcare reserve, a separate bucket, for potential costs after 80. Third, set guardrails, not just a number. A guardrail strategy says, if my portfolio drops by more than X%, I'll pull back spending by a small percentage. If my portfolio grows beyond Y%, I'll allow myself to spend a little more. This keeps you responsive to reality instead of locked into a projection that might be years out of date. Fourth, revisit the plan annually, just like the withdrawal order checklist we covered before. Life changes. The plan should too. Closing. Here's what I want you to take away from this. You did not save for 30 or 40 years to be afraid of your own money. You saved so that one day you could stop trading time for dollars and start spending both on the things that matter. The lies we've talked about today come from a real place. Fear of poverty and old age is legitimate and serious, but fear that is not calibrated to your actual situation becomes its own kind of poverty. Know your numbers. Build a real plan. Spend with intention, not with guilt. This video is for education only and is not personal financial or tax advice. Your situation is unique, and I'd strongly encourage you to work through this with a fiduciary financial planner who can look at your specific numbers. If this helped you think differently about retirement spending, hit that like button. It helps more people find this content. And if you haven't seen our video on which accounts to pull from first in retirement, that's the perfect next step. I'll link it right here. You worked hard for this money. Now, go enjoy it.